Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. Woohoo, party! Still waiting on the dashboard to get populated with data, so my apologies. Daily Brief. Looks like we're live on YouTube. That's good to see. I started a little bit late here this morning also, too, because I had a funny little thing to try and work out on YouTube, but we got that taken care of. So, welcome back to the Frivolity. It is Wednesday, the 6th of November. Feeling a little bit of a seed shift in the market here today. We had a fairly uppy tone to things of late, but we're seeing some selling coming into the market. I don't know whether this is just so nosebleedy up top here on the stock market that we gotta take some sort of pause here. And sometimes, you can see we work our way up and then all of a sudden, bam, we just get blindsided by a wave of selling. So in a weird sort of way, kind of, we have to brace ourselves, of course, never take too much risk on any one name. And if the market has to go into pullback mode and calm down, you're playing the stock market, well, probably a good idea to cool your jets. And we might as well say right off the top of the show, had kind of a fun little name in the home furnishing space that we took a shot off of this 78.6 level, and that failed. So we got kicked in the love sack this morning. Boo, hiss, hiss, boo. But, it's a trader's life. And really, I don't have any emotion when it comes to any of this. What I just simply say is, and I was telling Kevin before we got the show going, I just wanted this level traded to get it done. No emotion, so orders in there. I have an odd lot because, of course, I don't like to throw a lot of money at anything. So my order's just working here. They're probably going to fuck around with price here for a bit. I wouldn't even be surprised to see some volatility come in here. But, I'm not really in a big hurry. I'm just going to simply work my order at my level. And it might take a bit to get filled on the exit here. But the whole thesis behind why I wanted to be in this name, that thesis is gone. We've broken this bottom, we've made new lows, etc. And really, there's no emotion in any of this. I mean, it would have been a lot of fun to have this on the books and nice win, love sack, all that kind of stuff. But as you can see, I got kicked in the love sack here this morning. I'm exiting this position. So just an FYI, and if any of you also participated in that, act accordingly, please. And I see a lot of our sort of names that have been sort of working their way higher, like the CLDX. Nice. Jamie was talking about great earnings in this space. The stocks were getting bid up, but now it feels like we're coming back down to earth. So just be aware of that. If we look at things like risk on versus risk off, I do see there was a very large build in oil inventories overnight. Wednesday, of course, is EIA day. So the oil has calmed down a bit. Of course, I throw on the words when I first get up in the morning. We have lots of econs and stuff that come up through the morning. And the market pushes itself around. So it's kind of cool just to sort of see what has been the inertia or the trend since I first woke up. You can see stocks really are kind of parked here. The individual names, there's some up and there's some down, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a couple names that look just absolutely fantastic in here. I don't know whether you guys are aware of this or not, but we bought this Voltaic Minerals back, I guess it was last winter at 16 cents, and actually this thing has actually doubled in price for us here. So it's sitting up at 36. You can see it's just been a straight line move up. So I do have my open order working to sell at 35. It's like 30 bid right now. So I'm not really in a big hurry. And anybody who did participate in this, they've had a reorganization, etc. So, look in your account. We bought it. It was called Voltaic. They changed themselves into Alpha Lithium Corporation, and of course it seems they're doing good things. So there are bright spots in the market, don't get me wrong. You know, I noticed that Sonos, for example, I don't know what it's up to here, but, you know, this is a product that we've been thinking has been pretty well received in the market. You know, their speakers. You know, I actually see, you know, potential for this kind of pattern. We'll see how it goes. Only time will tell. But as I was sort of going through the rags, there's some interesting names. We've been talking about this Java. I don't know whether you guys remember this one or not. I got all excited off of this double bottom, but you can see the double bottom net breakout never came in. So just patient, and lo and behold, here comes another double bottom and a big breakout here today. And a really pretty little W in OBV, a nice breakout in momentum. So I am going and working a bid off of the breakout level 398. So that's something that I'm kicking around right now. And there are, you know, we had a nice little meeting last night, TRI-SOFers. We took a good look at a lot of energy names. And you notice a lot of these charts in the energy sector are all looking extremely similar. You know, I have a bid working on this one down below. As you can see, I bought the breakout on this ring, REI. And I also have a bid down below. Gulfport, same thing. I bought a little bit on the weekly W, and I have a bid down working below. This Sandridge has gone a little bit too far. If it can come back down against these lows kind of idea, I might do a little bit of buying there. I mean, and not a lot of money, right? You know, my account, I'm not going to give you specific numbers, but I'll just simply say none of these bets are more than 1% of my account. So very small bets. And kind of an interesting conversation. It's interesting because Sjord actually recently has been asking for kind of like blog posts and stuff. And he's often suggested, you know, what are, you know, a great blog post might be like, what are assets that actually do half decently well in recessionary environments. And the interesting thing with something like natural gas, there's the natural gas chart, is you can see like 2007, 2008, actually this thing performed pretty well. While the rest of the stock market was freaking out there. If we go back to like 2000, there's 1999, 2000, the recessionary environment there. Natural gas did really well through that period. I guess it topped out there in December 2000, so maybe, actually no, this is probably better analogy. Recession, you know, unfortunately 9/11, all that kind of stuff. But it did really, really well through that really crappy recessionary period. You know, the previous session, 1991, 92, and you can see the double bottom there. 1992 was recessionary, and yeah, really, really nice performance there. So this is the kind of market that actually I'm getting really interested in because I think we're getting closer to recession. And it's just a question of time when it'll come in, and hopefully you can see the W's that are coming in here. Now, you know, things have gapped violently higher here. I do like the idea of just going and nibbling a little bit here, but, you know, I'm working bids against the bottom end of the range, you know, on those individual stocks. So I just thought that was a really interesting tell. And, you know, this is something I don't think the public is really catching on to, is if we actually look at interest rates themselves, notice that this interest rate environment is actually very highly correlated with natural gas prices. Why? Because natural gas prices, you know, we're trying to move away from a coal-based utility grid. And, of course, Elon Musk and all those people, they'd love for us to move to solar, but that's just not realistic. So really, you could argue that natural gas now is a huge sort of, you know, component of the cost of our society. So as natural gas prices go, and especially if they start going parabolic like this, then, you know, people are like, oh boy, increased costs, i.e. inflation, and look out, interest rates. So my hunch is, I've been sort of humming and hawing. I think I talked to you guys recently that I feel as though we're coming to a very long-term pivot, demographically and stuff off of interest rates and the trend in long-term interest rates. But, this might be an interesting little driver that actually nobody is thinking about in the marketplace that might actually be one of the main causes for interest rates to move up in earnest here. And, you can see the basic premise of reload zones and all that. So, I mean, like, investors actually, I really do like the idea of shopping in this space here. Just our rule is, don't write naked call options on this damn thing. You're an idiot if you do. Anyway, that's a joke for all level 3ers. I don't know whether you guys got that joke or not, but anyway. Coming out of the meeting last night, we had our Tuesday TRI-SOF. We were talking a lot about energy last night. And I like that. I like that thinking. It makes sense to me. And, of course, energy is so politically incorrect. We had a few ideas. Kevin pointed out this Leaf has put in a little double bottom. If you are interested in the pot stock sector, it looks like ACB in Canada is trying to bottom. I've got an alert set on this high here of 515. Notice today's high is 515, so if we can, it'd probably even be good if we could just close the day out here and then tick up through that, because then that'd be like a nice little cup and handle. But keeping an eye on this. I'm a little disappointed in our David's T. That option's going to expire in a couple weeks and just never perform for us. But the pot stocks all got their asses kicked, and really that whole sort of Canadian edibles legislation didn't really translate into anything. And then another name, and unfortunately, we're a little bit late, can't really chase this here. But I was very impressed. I think it was David. He actually pointed out this SCOR. Like I said, you can't chase this here. But nonetheless, I mean, hopefully everybody looks at this chart and sees this big W here. Fundamentals didn't really agree to TRI Club, Zach and Brian's little penny options club criteria. But, an up market is an up market is an up market. And if you are playing technical breakouts, this is another one to keep an eye on. So there are bright spots in the market, but I'm just worried that, we're right up, of course, against historic resistance. We're at new highs, for Pete's sake. The Fed is now starting to say things like, look, we've done our job. No more interest rate cuts. Fuck you. So earnings season is almost out of the way. So that just leaves the way for this whole China-U.S. stuff to start dominating the headlines again. And then, of course, the U.S. Congress right now is, especially House of Representatives, because, of course, they're controlled by the Democrats. They're fishing for anything that they can find. And keep in mind, like Watergate started out one direction and then ended up with the Nixon tapes, which was a total surprise to everybody, basically sinking Nixon, right? He was on record as just sounding horrible. And he used to swear like a sailor, right? Just really, really bad. So that just sunk him in the public opinion polls. So you can feel that the Democrats in Congress, I don't know whether they really have a case about, where the quote unquote facts stand right now. I'm hearing quid pro quo being kicked around. So I don't quite understand that, but for some reason people have really latched onto this quid pro quo, and hearing stuff like military assistance was going to be predicated on whether there was an investigation of the Biden's family's connections and that stuff there. Who knows where this soap opera might lead? But that's so I would say like China. You know, and that ongoing situation in Hong Kong, that could be trouble. And then, you know, domestically, Mr. Trump is at odds with the Congress right now, the House. So, you know, that's probably the drivers. If anything, I think the Fed probably wants to just back away from the equation. But who knows? We'll see. You know, been watching sort of, you know, American Barrick in here just going through an absolute war as sort of our gold proxy, and then the gold stocks themselves just, again, just choppy, terrible trade location. We're not up against the highs, we're not against the lows, just sort of in no man's land. So it's not really like I have buy signals on these risk off assets. It just feels as though risk on is just gone a little bit too far. We're starting to get, you know, inventory build that out of oil. What are going to be the drivers for stocks? The Fed shot its wad. Earnings season is almost basically done. So could maybe risk on take a bit of a pause here. It sure feels like that. I don't know whether we necessarily have a new trends developing in risk off, but it just feels sort of like a back everything up kind of day. So, you know, I just wanted to sort of give you an FYI there. You know, we could very easily on the gold itself be carving an inside bar here. That's totally realistic. Pretty wild action on the end, same thing. Interestingly enough, for the Japanese, this actually is the textbook definition of harami. So, you know, they're probably very interested in how this candle actually finishes. And the bond market, just looking at my little bond ETF proxy TLTs, you know, there's nothing really to get too excited about. We did trade to new lows yesterday. You know, just gaps everywhere here. So could there just be like an absolute mess of price action here over the next little while? Totally realistic. And it doesn't look like the gold has lost these lows just yet. There's going to have to be some big fundamental driver that's really going to cause that. Let's see, anything over here to comment on? US dollar index trying. Actually, I think you could make the argument US dollar index did break out here. 98 even, 98.01. So technically that is a double bottom there. We've been talking recently about how euro, sort of things like British pound, look pretty dangerous in here, and we're looking at the euro. Holy Jesus, look at that euro. So what do you think, guys? Is this the kind of stuff maybe we should try and learn? I mean, it's not really like anything's guaranteed in this business. You saw I just got kicked in the love sack, so I went and in the love sacks case, I went and bought the 78.6, and the market went on and beyond and busted this high. But quite often, the market will peter out here and head the other direction. So, and now, I don't know, are we supposed to be thinking anything if we ever see the market smiling at us? So, in a weird sort of way, like Europe conversation, I think is really kind of like if euro and British pound and stuff are rallying, that's sort of like that risk on kind of conversation. So in a weird sort of way, I do actually think there's probably like a risk off message being sent there. And it almost looks like A, B, C, D's. It wants to dip back down into reload zones here. So just be forewarned. Yeah, I think you can see that's pretty well developed. Interesting to see we had this very wide channel on stocks, and this is sort of what I made reference to earlier. Ironically enough, I was actually looking for a down pivot through this cycle, and we got the exact opposite. Go figure. I still like the idea of the market finding an up pivot cycle around that early December window. But, you know, maybe what that looks like is a pullback against these trend lines, mid-channel of support. You know, wicks and tails like to be eating big old gaps. And then we rally back up top. Tough to say. Right now, all we got, you know, this is a 4-hour chart. We just have sort of like a waterfall here of just lack of buying interest. That's what it looks like to me. you know, maybe similar to like this, and then we'll get a burst up against the highs, right? And then if that fails, then we actually have a top in. Right now, I just don't have much technically to say about the stock market top here. So why don't we, is there anything else I wanted to comment on? You know, there, like I said, there are some ideas actually I'm trying to get in. Things like this coffee. I think that's a great looking chart. I was just waiting for the W to come in. It's now there, and really this is like, you know, again, it's kind of like the Lovesac. You know, it's a textbook. Actually, it's even better because the Lovesac never really W'd. So now this guy at least has a nice W. This looks very similar to that pot stock that has yet to W. So what the hell is it? ACB. ACB. So you can see how ACB is trying to W here. This guy we were watching all through here. Are you going to W, right? And now boom, we've got our W. So there are ideas out there. And like I said, I'm trying to be a buyer. I don't think there's anything else really on here to get too excited about. You know, old stories. I mean, got to be happy to see our little clothing stock making new highs. That's good. And our little pharma name probably going to run into some serious resistance against the top of this channel. This channel is huge. So that's like the midpoint of that massive channel. So my hunch is probably we're going to run into some resistance here. And this also, there's a gap here. You see the gap right there, and 50% rolls. We've done the technical bounce that you would expect. You know, I get the impression a lot of people think that sort of options trading is easy peasy and you're always going to bang out monstrous winners. Here's a great analogy of options trading as a pain in the ass. So we've been in this name for like eternity. We did get our free position established on this rally. And then I was very impressed with Zach. Zach had our order on the remaining position for our little club account to liquidate, and he got the position was liquidated. I did not get my fill, and the option expired worthless. And look how this goddamn thing has just turned around and gone straight up since then. So it just goes to show. I mean, it's not all peaches and cream in this business of options trading. So kind of a bummer there. So Brian, as you can see, I mean, Brian's talking more about problems this morning than monster wins. So you know, it's a trader's life. You're gonna live by the sword and die by the sword. Some days you look like a genius. Some days you look like a doofus. You just never know which it is. Try not to take too much risk and rinse and repeat. Yeah, I mean, like even like our, you know, and if anything, this is a really good analogy of why you don't want to chase. So, you know, yesterday we were feeling all crazy bullish. Kevin got his double off on this CLDX yesterday. Way to go, Slick. And today we're coming screaming right back down. And, you know, the irony of it all is if you actually want to be a buyer of this, you can see W, W, W. Really, you got no business buying this up here, and my hunch is probably this gap needs filling. But Kevin and I were even talking about this. You know, if you wanted to sneak your way back in, probably just wait for trend line tags and good old reload zones and tests of bottom of value and all that kind of fun stuff. You know, 78.6s right at the value low. You can see the MUOC here. So if you are interested in participating in this name, that's probably the area where you want to concentrate on. Yeah. Yep, Lovesac got kicked in the Lovesac this morning. Wow, that's a big drop. That's surprising. Did not expect that. But, you know, like I said, hopefully you can hear no emotion in my voice. Very calm. Trade's idea failed. Just walk away. Okay, let's head on over to crypto now. So, once upon a time, we found this crazy asset that seems to be following this growth curve. We sort of identified where we are over the sort of weekly basis on this growth curve. We had an inside bar that's set up here on a big spike higher, thinking maybe AB equals CD. And as you can see on the weekly charts, this is turning out to be quite an apex here. We're probably going to get, my hunch is this week's price action, we're going to get an inside bar within an inside bar. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, maybe we dump, maybe we rock it, but my hunch is this is going to be yet another inside bar. And it's basically going to set up one hell of a showdown here. And, if we lose this low, then that obviously is an inside bar sell signal. It will also mean that price now will be below these moving averages, which will imply that any kind of counter trend rally, it's going to run into stiff resistance in here. So a loss of this level to me seems very problematic. And, I kind of like to identify little windows of risk where I get a pretty good idea. If we lose a low, double bottoms, love sack kind of talk, pick a relatively small risk window. If you're right, then on the other side of it, you look like a genius, and people are like, "Oh, you're so smart, whatever." If you're wrong, at least you have a relatively small window to define what your risk is, and you just walk away. If the love sack trade worked, we would all been like laughing and memeing about it for years down the road. Didn't work, big deal. Hopefully next bus in 10 minutes, no emotional attachment, and just, we'll hunt for the next idea. So that's sort of how I'm looking at Bitcoin right now. I don't want to get too emotionally attached in this trade. It's just simply I'm trading a level, and if the level's lost, it's lost. That's the way it goes. I don't know whether there's anything new we can comment internally here. I mean, the problem, I don't know whether you call it a problem or not, but, the general sort of message that I'm getting here is that Bitcoin's still very much range bound. Great to see this kind of action on the altcoin space. Maybe we can finally mark a bottom. When I sort of go through algo talk, does it make sense that most of the the cash markets and then the crypto forwards markets are basically sideways? You can see on that little, we had Uber Bear readings, what is that, like a week ago? Jeez. For the algo, and the algo just had to sit there and do absolutely nothing, and then finally got busted out on that spike higher. So algo trade is a big hurry up and do nothing right now. But I did find it, and I don't know whether it's a coincidence or whether it's an anomaly, but I found it kind of interesting that the CBOE contract here is actually flashing Uber Bull. Maybe that has something to do with that crazy ass tail and screwing around with the indicators. But I'm considering that sort of an outlier right now. Looking at price action, probably the best chart for us to look at is, where is it? This one. So, this has been kind of a fun experiment, and tomorrow, hopefully, we'll get Julian's report. But the way I like to kind of use RSI is, first, if you're thinking bull, first W on RSI sort of stops the bear slide. Then the second W following that sort of establishes a new uptrend, and then sometimes you get like absolute face rippy uptrends following the second, yellow W on the screen here, and these are dangerous. So you can kind of see that we went through that process as the market turned back up. And then once we got into sort of this kind of the purple sort of third phase, this was dangerous up here. So same sort of thing going the other way. First M stops the bull run. I don't know whether you consider this little one another M. I think that might be a bit aggressive. But, I mean, I suppose you could, you know. A break of this low in RSI. That low was 57.46. This high was 57.98. It's not huge numbers, but nonetheless, it is a structural failure. And, of course, through the 50 line, so big dump. Nice to see that these lows held. W comes in, stops that, you know, that violent, aggressive slide. We had a really weird action on RSI yesterday. I didn't really quite know how to interpret this. Higher high. So coming through yesterday, kind of, you know, I didn't really have a clear message. I saw another W came in through this action right here, which set up this surge. So I was kind of thinking like this was the second W, but it's not really that good. Waking up this morning, seeing this M come in here, pretty nasty, right? Was this first M sort of stopping this attempted push higher here? I think so. So that's sort of how I interpret that. Stop the bull. And then the next M that came in afterward starts the bear. And of course that also is a failure through the 50 level as well. So, you know, about an hour or so ago, I saw this failure here, and so I don't know whether I tweeted. Actually, yeah, I did. So I kind of feel like right now we're in this kind of mode. I don't know whether we get in trouble for playing this on YouTube. But these guys. So I'm kind of thinking we're dipping here. How far, how hard do we dip? I think there's a number of different scenarios here. Just really is a question of how aggressive the selling turns out to be. You know, if stock market rolls over here, if crude oil rolls over, if bond and gold and yen start taking off here, you could see sort of like a tsunami of selling here out of the risk assets. But as I sort of have on the screen here, I think there's sort of like 4 scenarios in the short term. So scenario 1 would just simply be that we're contained within this range right now. I suppose we can pull that up to that high there. Of course, they put the drawing tool right over top. So kind of like that. So you can see the dip. We did hit Mountain Man there this morning. There is an existing trend line. I think this comes right like off of the lows. Wow, this is an old trend line. Oh, interesting. So that's actually off of 2 previous peaks. So, you know, interesting. So that's sort of like a high to low trend line that I've drawn there. So that seems to be getting some respect in the market here this morning. That's that one. I don't know how much confidence I have in that particular trend line. Then we have this market structure. The breakout through here confirms this structure. So that paints this trend line, and that basically means that this range here has failed and resolved to the downside, and now it's really a question of, do we actually start failing this bigger market structure? So scenario number 2 means the bears really get going in earnest, and as you can see from our simple price momentum study here, we might get another big M. Can you guys see this honking big M that might come in here? So this looks a little dangerous. From there to there, and there to there. So, you know, price momentum right now looks very, very iffy. Be careful here, guys. Don't everybody go out and get all rah-rah bullish here. Um, we can't really, I mean, maybe we dump right down into these reload zones, and if that's the case, that's this bigger market structure starts coming in. Can we hold against all these previous lows? Wicks and tails like to be eaten. Candle body lows for trade location. So keep an eye on this sort of 91 area, 9100 area kind of idea. Should this reload zone and this high to low trend line fail. And really, you know, the shitty part about this is, you know, if these lows get taken out, then that basically confirms this bearish harmonic, which has a price objective down here around 9,000 even, big fat round number. And then also too, think, you know, wicks and tails like to be eaten. There's a really juicy trade level right in there, I bet, that just hasn't been explored yet. All right down in here. So, you know, if things stay relatively orderly through this correction, and really we cannot even think about this correction being done until we actually start seeing some W's here. I'm hoping, you know, because like I said, I've got a little long trade that I'm thinking, well, half of the position's on it, but you know, I would like to see some structural turn come in here, but that's down the road. That's going to take at least a day or two to probably clean up. Now, if all hell breaks loose, there is definitely this scenario. This megaphone still technically is actually working, and I've actually seen this happen before, guys, where you actually get a blast off through the top of the megaphone. The market comes down, tries to hold the top of the megaphone, and then loses it. So in essence, this megaphone is actually still very much active. I've seen that happen before. It's not new. So if that's the case, that means this trend line, oh, fuck me, is still very much on the table. Sucks, but it is a total brutal reality. And of course, we've got this original trend line coming off of these peaks that's working there. So my hunch is, you know, scenario 4 is, oh, fucking hell, all hell breaks loose. We dump down into sort of that 8,800 area. And if that's the case, then all of this talk about this bullish bot setup just evaporates. So that's sort of the scenario that I see for you here. Unfortunately, I can't predict the future. We're pretty much in a range, you know, we're banging around in this range. You know, according to the trading plan, I risk against these lows, and I can still, I've only got half of my long position on. So that's sort of what this chart, not that chart, yeah, this chart. You know, I've only got half of the position that I really wanted on. I bought 10, I bought 10, I bought 5, so that's 25 of 50. And the irony of it all is price is actually sitting exactly at my cost. I'm not underwater, I'm not in the money, I'm actually sitting exactly flat right now. So, you know, I put the position on, just let it work, live by the sword, die by the sword. I'm actually pleased to see that now when I draw these AB equals CDs off of OKCoin, we actually come right back down against these lows, but we don't break the actual bottoming pattern. So I could see some sort of big fuck you, right? Just down into these levels, but actually these levels hold. Long and short of it here, 89.84 area here is lost, and I walk away from the trade. Just exactly like what I just did on the love sack. Day traders, I did have, it was interesting overnight, I had some requests, can we set alerts and all that kind of stuff. Please understand everybody, this script in particular, and I think it's still sort of, you know, we're still vetting it out to see if the signals change and stuff over time and how accurate it actually is. As you can see, I actually had this signal change where this was green when this actually came in. There's the hourly and 4-hour signals. But over time, because these are based on exponential moving averages, they actually change. So I'm still vetting this out. A gentleman by the name of Peter actually won that level 1 contest recently. He's in the level 1 program. he was the one that wrote this script. And my simple suggestion is, if you have suggestions for him, if you have feedback, if you have ideas that maybe you'd like him to add to his script, probably a good idea just to touch base with him. I didn't write this script. I'm just sort of, using it. Because I'm a user, man. What? So the point of the matter here is market went into, and according to this, right, actually the signal came in a little bit late. It would have been a great little inside bar fire there. But according to this, right, signal fires here. We had a couple bullish fractals fire overnight. You can see they tried to get the market going, and then another bullish fractal tried to come in here, never even did get a signal. Then another couple of bullish signals tried to come in here and just got bitch slapped. And, I think I've told you guys before, and especially when in the level 3 program, when I go through setting up your Pro Traders workbench and all that kind of stuff, I had very specific expectations when I was day trading, in that some days you go, I would typically like to trade 3 setups in a day, risk $150 on each setup in the crude pits, and shoot for like 2 to 1, 3 to 1. So if I had a good day and I went 3 for 3, I could be up $1,000, maybe like $1,500 on the day. If I had a mediocre day, maybe like 2 wins, 1 loss, then maybe I'm up like $300, $400. And if I had kind of a crappy day, 2 losers, 1 winner, I'm scratch. And if I have just an absolutely horrible day, 0 for 3, I'm down $450, turn the machine off, walk away. This, I think, would be one of those kind of days where you just never know in this game what the market's going to give you. It's just the way the market goes. So in this particular case, you had to book 2 losers in a row. And then, of course, the signal flips back to bear, or at least not, uber bull kind of idea, moving averages. And so you're like, well, that was a fun day. Merry Christmas. But it is a day trader's life. I mean, if you want to go down this road, the only reason why I do this day in, day out is I just simply want to illustrate to the community what a day trader's life is like. We happen to pick this particular setup that you can trade off a lower time frame, and away you go. I'm not advocating that you trade this setup. It's just purely an illustration of what does, number one, what does vetting a setup actually look like? Holy fuck, this is a lot of work. This is only like, what, about a month and a week. Also, too, what I really like about this tool is you can sort of see the tone of the market changing. You can really feel that things tried to turn from bearish back to bullish here. So we'll see how it goes. Only time will tell. I mean, it's a great demonstration. And, I'm just doing, for now, I'm just sort of doing manually checking as we go through these windows, how performance went. I do find it interesting that, like here, this day you would have felt like a trading god, right? 1 win, 2 win, 3 win, 4 win, only 1 loss and 1 scratch, right? Oh, look at me, I'm awesome. But today, oh, fuck me. And I think we've told you before, when Stewart... when Stewart, I thought it was hilarious about a week or 2 ago, maybe even a few weeks. Stewart comes in the lounge and he says, yeah, I've had 11 winning trades in a row and I'm depressed as hell. And everybody's like, what? And if you understand statistics, right? If you're any kind of statistical mathematician, you understand that 11 winning trades in a row is not sustainable. You're going to have to book some losses. And sure enough, from what I understand, those statistics have evened out for Stewart of late. But it just goes to show it's a really, really good demonstration of what a day trader's life is. Some days you look like an absolute genius. Other days you just got to... mend your wounds, walk away. Next bus in 10 minutes. Okay, let's see. Anything else we want to talk about here? We talked about our scenarios. We talked about how RSI is sort of telling us to cool our jets. I suppose people could be hunting short setups here. I wouldn't fault them. The only problem is remember we had sort of said, you know, we're getting lots of bullish readings here, and as long as, oops, that's not what I wanted. As long as the dailies are still pointing up and the 4 hours are still pointing up, then on balance, I don't like the idea of hunting shorts. I think you got to just let things settle down. This might just be more trading range, right? Scenario 1 holds in here. Where the hell is our scenarios? Okay, Brian's going crazy. Yeah, scenario 1 holds in. This RLZ holds. This trend line holds, and we head right back up. You don't know. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, you got to build your trading plan and act accordingly. So, you know, based on the fact that we still have the daily and the 4 hours still pointing up, it's not like I'm hunting shorts right now. It's just that, you know, the 1 hours have rolled over here, so we're just sitting on pause. And I'm also, you know, as a student of the market and sort of vetting this setup, this particular cycle, and especially with Peter's script, I've sort of really focused in on including the hourlies, but I'm still debating whether we just take every single 4 hour daily in that direction. Because like I said, there were some really cool little reversal signals that produced winning trades overnight. This one worked, this one worked, so that would have been 2 wins there. So I don't know, I'm still humming and hawing about that. All right, heading over to altcoin land. You know, it's interesting. One site member was posting that he had this bullish bot set up working on Litecoin, and you know, if anything, this is an excellent testament to patience and discipline. Had you taken this bot setup, and we have the message move stop to scratch, so you've moved your stop to scratch. What do you think you should have done? And keep in mind, this is a 4 hour chart. So this is 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36 hours. What do you think you should have done over the past 36 hours? That's like almost like a day and a half on this trade here. Anything? Should you have done? You had your move stop to scratch level hit, and now 36 hours later, what should you have done through this whole period? Is anybody even watching? I don't know, maybe people aren't even watching this anymore. Hey, there's Rocker. Hi, Joshua. Nice to see you guys over there on YouTube. Sit on your paws, that's right. Excellent answer, Casey. I mean, the irony of it all is there's just nothing to do here. Ironically enough, it's actually almost exactly like my Bitcoin trade. There's just nothing to do here. Meow. Where's Shane? I think I saw Shane on the call earlier. So, you know, I'm actually seeing a lot of sort of, you know, altcoin action. There's just nothing to do on a lot of these names right here, right now. I mean, I want to be like, you know, giving you like, oh yeah, gotta buy, gotta sell, gotta buy, gotta sell. I mean, you can clearly see where the level was yesterday. I mean, and I don't know, maybe that was even a couple days ago. It was a beautiful W. And of course, this was Daniel. Daniel's so smart. The guy's a fucking awesome trader. So, you know, if we do M out here and crap out and Bitcoin loses those recent lows and scenario 3 or 4 has to play out, this thing might just crap right back out and you just can walk away at scratch, you know, next bus in 10 minutes. So there's nothing really to get too excited about on names like Litecoin right now. Is it a good idea to step in and buy it here? Well, that's kind of asking for trouble. If you were like, yeah, but Brian, I'm so bullish. There's this fundamental event coming. I want to get long. Maybe take this down to like an hourly chart and see if you can hunt like a bullish bot to try and sneak your way in off a lower time frame. Something like there to there. Bot setup. There we go. So I think we probably went, yeah, we haven't corrected enough there. So your setup would probably just be there to there so far. And of course, this would be very, very aggressive. And so that means you're going to have a pretty small risk window. My hunch is this is off like, say, like a 15-minute chart or something. Yeah, so there's that little setup. If you really, Brian, I really want to get long, right? You might be able to sneak your way in off a nice little. And you can see this is going to take some time. So we got one low, two lows. If it worked its way back up against this trend line, third low, and then worked its way up, maybe you could start thinking about sneaking your way in off lower time frame there. Definitely not for the faint of heart. Probably all level oneers. Get the hell off of 15-minute charts. You got no business over there. This would be like more aggressive. I really want to get in on this, this position, day trade kind of idea. So, for the advanced people, that's probably something to consider. But on balance, I would, especially like level oneers, new people to trading, just general site members, you're probably best if you are, trying to get long, maybe just stick to that sort of 4-hour thinking. And that way you're not like riddled with anxiety through the day. So, there are the levels. Couple names that we've been kicking around recently that I know that some site people have expressed interest in. Kevin's idea of CIS looking great here, well away from our trade level. This storage, it's okay. I mean, it's nothing to write home about. Just basically sitting right in that trading range, just parked right at the POC. BNB, we like to keep an eye on for sort of a sentiment proxy in the altcoin space. I suppose nice to see that it's trying to make higher highs here. The only question is that creating things like bear divs? I mean, me personally, I don't really like when bots set up like this where they're steep like this. But, could this trade work? Sure. I don't see any reason why not. I like, grade 3 English teacher, right? I like to have those W's really nice and well defined. But, I mean, you can see how the trade set up off of that level there. So I do like the fact that, first off, this bearish setup is having a lot of difficulty here. So I do like that for sort of long. The bears, they've really got the bears on the run here. And then I think you can make the argument that the bulls are trying to establish a move up top here. I mean, I don't really have any signs of failure out of this, so I'm still thinking uppy. We did have signs of failure through here, but like I said, lots of higher lows all establishing and then higher highs. I think that basically negates that now. What I'd be worried about, of course, is if you that come in, right? Then if that develops, then we know that Bitcoin's fallen. That Litecoin probably fell out of bed, and the crypto story's got to go back in the cupboard. And that definitely can happen. If somebody comes out and says something wrong, and somebody says something horrific in front of the House Investigation Committee on impeachment and all that, and it's a total bombshell, you could have sort of the risk-on tone of the market just evaporate. And maybe what that does is it launches things like gold stocks back up into short trade locations. Bonds fill in all these gaps up top. Japanese yen, it maybe even explores, back up against these highs. You don't know in this crazy world. So, not a bad proxy for the altcoin space. If this thing starts to roll over in earnest, then we're in trouble. And it's just kind of bumping along here. So we'll see how it goes. Only time will tell. One that I did want to point out, somebody on the site recently had made reference to Decred and the fact that this monster rally did start firing things like bullish divergences. Right? You can see the big bull divergence. Nice little W's on OBV and all that kind of stuff too. And so now, and this is almost exactly what I had sort of walked us through, what we would really love to see now is just a nice polite W in a reload zone, and away we go. So those people that are interested in Decred, you can literally see it is coming down into reload zones. Just be nice and patient. If you like this name, if you're interested, start, as we're coming into reload zones. You want to drill down to like a 4-hour. We're nowhere near there yet, so it's way too early for that kind of thinking. But, once we get into here, you want to start, drilling down to like 4 hours, looking for those bull divs, looking for W's, etc. I think that's one to keep an eye on. And I wanted to finish off today with a really interesting conversation in that I got a funny feeling this is an example of I've often used that analogy of Amazon, and it was like $100, $200 a share at the top of the dot-com boom. And through the following, meltdown, they took it right back to $5, $10 a share. And, of course, everybody knows where Amazon is now. I think this could very easily be one of those kind of stories. Interestingly enough, and it's interesting. I did like a video with Da Vinci way back last February, I think it was. And this was one of the names that I said I really liked. And I still like it. We got, of course, a whack of it on the books from last rallies, banging out doubles, all that kind of talk. But, I like this because, as you notice, ironically enough, if you had actually bought this one in like 2017, anywhere through that, look at that, right? Even to December 2017, right? Through all that orgy of crypto insanity. Ironically enough, it's basically just a zero-sum game. If this was one of your nanny nibbles, there hasn't been anything. Nothing's really happened here. That's the irony of all of this. And I mention this because I don't know whether it's popular view. I don't know whether this guy is really liked on YouTube or not. But been watching a few of where is he? What do they call him? He calls him Crypto Chico or something like that. This guy. And actually, he did a really good. I don't know whether he has like a. Maybe he has a channel or something like that. I'm sure he does. But he did a really good video, and I actually I like listening to you guys for sort of help on the fundamental story of crypto, because half the time I don't understand the fundamentals. So I would recommend that you all watch this video where he's calling it my new #1 altcoin hodl. I look at this chart, and what do you think? Would Brian be interested in an idea like that? I mean, what do you think? The chart, of course, says 1,000 words, right? I always, I put a tweet out the other day. Picture says 1,000 words, right? All that kind of talk. I mean, really, the answer should be extremely straightforward. And listening to what this guy said about this story, man, I really like it. Like, they're in partnership with Intel. So I thought that was really cool. And this is what I mean by, you got to survive the winter. And I know a lot of you guys are going, geez, I wish I knew this 2 years ago, blah, 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 blah. Hopefully you look at a chart like this. This is what sort of turning the corner looks like. I would strongly suggest all of you take a really, really good look at this name. Watch this guy's video. I already am long, so it's not like I need to go and add this position. One of the worst things that I hate, kind of like what I'm doing on those natural gas stocks, is I hate seeing weekly W's and not having a little bit. All right, take it easy, Shane. Nice seeing you, bud. So I've already got a chunk of this on the books. I'm not like, oh my God, I'm going to miss this. But if you don't own any of this, and keep in mind, I'm showing this versus US dollars. I would strongly suggest if this thing does get back down into sort of like 20-30 cent area, you take a really, really good look at this name. Because I think it's going places. And now we're starting to see, like I could see this as being sort of like the next cycle's big story. So just an FYI, like you can see, and what's really cool about this isn't just a weekly W. This is a monthly W. Son of a bitch. So, you know, if we change that to a line chart, you know, people are going to get this kind of chart from their institutional order desks. And they're going to be like, do you see what's going on with this thing? Do you see how powerful? I mean, it's so simple. You think, hey, we could just trade the market on monthly basis. Ironically enough, you know. Sometimes it's actually just that simple. So something big is going on with this name. And if you have an interest in crypto and you are running a trading plan, you know, base obviously the trade that you're going to take off of the particulars of your trading plan. But this has definitely got to become now like almost like a core coin to keep a real close eye on. So there's a nice little treat for you there this morning. Build your universe of acceptable names. I got a funny feeling this is going to be one of next cycle's big winners. Okay, so that is 10:07, basically about an hour. I hope you guys got some value out of today's conversation. We covered basically the gamut. We didn't really look at the internals too much in the market, but lots to talk about, you know, with stocks and, you know, getting kicked in the ball sack and all that. Couple new ideas to kick around as well. So, you know, we've given you some stuff to think about. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to reach out. I do have class teaching here till about 1, 2 o'clock this afternoon Pacific time. And, of course, Kevin and I have to go off and do the daily brief recap. But there's a name I think I actually could very realistically be a buyer for. So, you know, we've actually given you 2 ideas that I like on the long side. I like this little coffee stock, and I like IEX.EZ. All right. Take it easy, everybody. Have yourselves a great day. All the best. And the only thing left for good old Brian to say at this point is a big bye.